Today, I'm gonna show you how to create a medium-length wolf cut. So you're gonna learn how to create curtain bangs, layers, and how to create texture on medium-length hair. So if you're excited to try this new haircut out, let's get started. So the model we're working on today has fine, straight hair. There's a little bit of a natural wave to it, but it's mostly straight. And we're starting off with sectioning. So you wanna begin by separating the front and the back. Now you're noticing that we're taking a horizontal parting to separate the back into two sections. So I'm isolating the crown. The crown is the section that's above the occipital bone, which is the widest part of the back of the head. But the trick is just to get two sections in the back so that you can stay organized. Now start by cutting your length. So in this case, we're creating a square perimeter to maintain that fullness and that length, especially on fine hair. But if you want to have a thicker look to the haircut, I always recommend going kind of square all the way around because it's going to keep the most amount of weight at the bottom of the hair. So now we're getting into the layering, and we're starting with the vertical subsection in the center back. And you want to elevate that section high. So think of drawing like a diagonal line from corner to corner on the room. Elevate that to the highest point of that diagonal line, and then cut your layers. You also want to see that length drop out, because if you start layering from the very ends, you're actually going to take away all of that weight that you built whenever we cut that perimeter. And layering hair is truly one of those things that you need to stay organized with if you want to keep having speed and consistency in the salon. So I find that whenever I'm layering hair, it helps to have these sections mapped out in my head so that I don't get lost and I can just get through it pretty quickly. Here's the tricky part. So where the hairline begins to curve, we're going to be cutting a square perimeter, so you actually want to pull that hair back out of where it naturally lives. It's actually going to allow you to keep some of that length and fullness where normally you would lose that whenever you're cutting the ends. You'll also notice that this layering is being cut with a vertical line. So that means that your fingers are being held vertically as you cut. What that line does is it creates a lot of even layers all the way throughout the section. So for example, a diagonal line is going to leave more hair on one side of the diagonal and less hair on the other side. Where a vertical line, you're going to cut the same amount of layers all the way throughout the section. Now, getting into the top section, this is where we want to create symmetry, and we also want to create that nice short to long movement. So the first thing to do is to create that subsection right down the center. Get a little bit of hair from each side into that center subsection, and then you're going to create your guide. So we want to cut a line that gets short to long. The easiest way to do this is to actually slightly pull that top section to the front and then cut your line. Because whenever you over-direct or pull things away from where it naturally lives, you're able to create extra weight and length in the opposite direction. So pulling that layer slightly forward and then cutting is going to give you that naturally short to long movement. Now, once you get your guide cut, we're just pulling subsections to the guide and connecting. And we're going to do that on both sides. So that's why we created that subsection in the center. So that way we have a stationary point of reference to pull all of those subsections to. And it makes it really easy to create balance and an even amount of layers on each side. Now you might be wondering, hey, couldn't I just take this entire subsection and just pull it up to that guide and cut instead of doing the subsectioning? And you definitely could. So think about if you have thin hair, maybe you could get it done in one section. But if you have thicker hair, it's helpful to subsection so that you can create a clean line as you're cutting. And once you're done with that layering, all you need to do is connect it at the bottom. So you might have some extra lengths that are kind of a little longer than where you cut your length in the back. And all you have to do is just connect the perimeter at this point. And you're probably like, why didn't we just do that at the start? No reason. You definitely could, especially if you're going drastically shorter. But since we didn't take that much length off of this haircut, it didn't make that much of a difference. But if you want to, you can definitely just cut your length all the way around first. I find for me, it's easier to work in sections. So I like starting in the back, and then I'll move on to the sides, the top, and the crown. So it's just a process, whatever works for you, there's no right or wrong. I think it's just about figuring out the easiest way to get from point A to point B. For me, that comes from sectioning the hair and then just following my sections until I'm done with the haircut. Now moving into the crown, we're taking a small piece of hair from the top as the guide. So just a little bit of hair from right where the ear is to take as your guide. And then we're just pulling subsections from the back to the guide and cutting a line that gets longer towards center back. So if you look here, you can actually see that diagonal line. It's almost creating like a triangle at the top. So that's because your layers are shorter on the sides and get longer towards the back, which helps to create kind of a V shape in the layering. So you can see me double checking and just making sure that in the center, that's my longest point. And you can really see the triangle. That's what you're looking for when you're checking, because that'll show you short layers in the front, gradually getting longer towards the back. And once you've cut both sides, just check for balance all the way around until you're happy with the layers. And here you can see the hair before we styled it. It's just air drying really nicely. So if you have a little bit of wave, you can see the style is great for you. We're gonna dry it and then texturize it. I'm starting out with the smoothing blowout lotion. This is gonna give heat protection to the hair, so I always apply something like this before blow drying, especially on color treated hair that's been bleached. Maybe if you iron your hair a lot, you wanna put some sort of a protection in before you add heat. Just take the nozzle off your dryer and blast some of that water out of the hair before you even start brushing. It's gonna save you so much time and effort, because if you've ever tried to style like soaking wet hair, you know how many passes it takes with the brush before it's actually dry. And sometimes there's still little pockets of moisture stuck inside. I'm showing how to do a light blow dry in this video, so you can follow along with these steps if you do want to style your hair this exact way. But there's no real right and wrong to blow drying this haircut because the layers are cut just to fall back into place. A trick though is to use the brush and kind of flip the ends away as you pull the hair forward. That gives you that heavy kind of feeling in the front with the curtain bang, and then it gives you the movement that flows away from the face, and it creates just a really nice shape. This is my favorite technique for texturizing hair right now, as of March 2025. But I love doing this kind of chipping technique to take away large channels of hair and remove weight. The great part about a technique like this is it's almost like using a thinning shear without actually cutting that like perfectly blunt, choppy line in the middle of the strand. So we're taking the tips of the shears, just inserting them almost parallel to the hair strand, and then chipping that hair away in small channels. So you can see that I'm actually able to grasp those channels and I can pull them out of the hair as I'm cutting. So you can visually see the amount of weight that you're removing within each subsection. Now, the key is to make sure that you don't texturize the same section twice. What do you think is gonna happen? So the subsection is gonna get too thin. So you wanna make sure that once you're done texturizing a section, that you kind of get it out of the way and move on without going back over the same piece of hair. You don't wanna create hair that's just like strings in the front, so be very mindful and kind of look visually to see where you need to remove the weight. Here I'm creating some balance in the center. So after texturizing, there's a lot of little hairs hanging around. So you want to rebalance the perimeter. Just grab a small triangle in the center, pull it towards the center, and then cut a new line. That's going to give you that like little bit of shortness in the very center that just kind of blends really well into the outer lengths that we left on the sides. Here, we're kind of creating some extra side pieces so that if you want to, let's say, wear your hair down, you don't have hair that's so long and falling down to your chest. You want to customize these pieces. So I'm creating a little bit of a short guide by the base of the neck, and then just blending the layers from that short part of the bang all the way down into the longest layer by the neck. We're using a slight kind of carving technique so that we're not creating this exact blunt line. And anywhere that I'm having hair by the face, I tend to prefer a softer effect. So the more that you can carve into the hair and create texture, the better, honestly. And it's just better than creating a blunt line and then having to go back out and texturize. Just go in and really carve, freehand slice, create that like unique, natural feeling to the hair. And don't be afraid to like disconnect sections. So many times we're trying to get perfection and blend everything, but really it's about cutting those customized pieces so that it's really easy to style and get a unique look. Now I went in with a flat iron and just create a little bit of wave so you can see the transformation here. And then we're finishing off with some serum. So I always like to use a serum to create my spiky texture as opposed to a pomade. It's a little bit softer, especially on this kind of medium length hair where you don't really want to create stiff or sticky feelings. The serum will kind of spike the ends while leaving the hair brushable and soft. Now if you want to take it a step further, go in with a texture spray to create a little bit of extra pieciness. So I'm using the Kenra Dry Texture Spray, and I like this one especially because it gets that volume and grit without making the hair too stiff. So you can still brush your fingers through it, you can still get a lot of movement, and it just looks really beautiful. And that's basically it. So you can see this Wolfcut has beautiful curtain bangs. There's lots of customized pieces by the face to create cool styles with. And because we layered the hair in the back so heavily, we can create a lot of movement, whether we're styling the hair with a blow dryer, or if you're just air drying it and trying to achieve a natural wavy look. So let me know in the comments if you learned something and if you like this haircut. And let me know if you're gonna try it also, because I'm curious to see the results if you do try to take this tutorial and do it on yourself. But I really hope you enjoyed, and let me know what other haircuts you want to see in the future. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.